Yeah,
Yeah,
this and Sabrina's got a good question here too. Do you want to
yeah,
ask
I
that,
just
Sabrina?
invite you to just share your thoughts about kind of this fundamental question. I saw it in your slides that the idea that in Norway they think about education as a tool for equity. Like how, in your opinion, in your observation, your work, how have you noticed how a society really answers that question explicitly or implicitly? What's the purpose of education? How does that influence how they go about, establishing and implementing schooling?
Yeah, I think that's one of the central pieces. And so that's part of, in the book, I talk a little bit more about the Norwegian system, the Finnish system, and the Singaporean system. In so in Norway, I think it's a country where you have a common set of goals and values that are reflected in the design of the entire system, not just the education system. So Norway, and it's not just about what's the purpose of education. In Norway, it's kind of like, what's the purpose of the government? And the purpose of the government is to take the money that they've gained from the oil reserves that they discovered and to invest it so that they can support the social welfare state for 20 generations into the future. Under those conditions, the purpose of education can be to focus on becoming a more equitable, to have time to play and all of those things, because Norway has in a sense created that possibility. And that was not a foregone conclusion. That was a huge debate about what to do with the oil reserves, and they easily could have gone in a much more privatized direction. Finland and Singapore spend much more time, and they've developed mechanisms to bring members of the society together to talk about the purposes of education and the goals of the system at any time. So the Finnish, actually about every 10 years, they have a curriculum renewal process where there's a group of stakeholders, which is largely composed of teachers, but also researchers, business folks, politicians, and others who review the curriculum, think about where the whole country is headed, and propose changes to the national education goals and national education framework. And those changes are actually discussed at every level of the system. So you might have committees of stakeholders at the school level discussing what the folks at the at the national level are doing. And for me, those are the critical mechanisms for developing the relationships that where even if we disagree about the purposes of education, we can at least talk about them. We have no grounds for doing that. I mean, a board of education meeting here in my town of Hastings-on-Hudson is not a productive or constructive place for that kind of conversation. So the question is, where is the place for that kind of conversation in a system like the US?